Ladies and gentlemen, Tesla stock is down about 2% at the time of recording this video. And we have big news. Tesla has released a video of Giga Berlin transitioning to the new Model Y, which again, as I've explained before on this channel, this explains why Tesla deliveries are down in January. Why they're down in February is because they were transitioning. People don't want to go out and buy the iPhone 16, if you will, 2 weeks before the iPhone 17 comes out. Look at any company that goes through kind of a product refresh, and you're going to see the couple of weeks or even a couple of months before a new product comes out, the old product loses some ground, right? It loses popularity because, again, you don't want to buy the old product when the new product's coming out. And you'll never guess who has a comment to say about this. This article from Barron says Tesla stock is dropping. Forget Musk's Doge distractions. This is what matters. This is funny. Investors might also be worrying about first quarter sales. GLJ research analyst Gordon Johnson, of all people, we're going to listen to Gordon Johnson, besides the point, pointed out Thursday that Tesla's first quarter sales look weak. This guy has a $23 price target on Tesla, essentially saying Tesla is going to drop 95% from where it is. If anyone listens to Gordon Johnson, probably shouldn't be invested in markets because this guy has no idea what he's talking about ever. But this is hilarious. It says data is sparse, but sales in France and Germany dipped in January. Chinese sales dropped about 61% year over year in January and about 23% in the first half of February, according to data tracked by Citi analyst Jeff Chung. Okay, I have a lot of comments on this, but really it all boils back to Tesla is in the process of launching the new Model Y. These numbers sound scary to investors that lack brain cells to understand what's going on at Tesla. This is not the quote unquote brand destruction because people are protesting Tesla. This is not anything that has to do with Tesla necessarily or demand. It has to do with people waiting for delivery of their new Model Ys. We've gotten reports of hundreds of thousands of pre-orders in China alone for the new Model Y. Now, I think Dan Ives really, sets the record straight, and we'll get to that in just a moment. It says Wall Street expects Tesla to sell about 450,000 cars in the first quarter, according to FactSet, up from about 387,000 in the first quarter of 2024. That might be aggressive based on early data, and Tesla's not going to hit that. Estimates are going to come down, and really in the 2 weeks leading up until first quarter earnings, you're going to get those estimates that come down, probably to about 400,000. And, I would argue you're probably going to come in at like a 380,000, maybe even 370,000 number for Q1 because they're transitioning to the Model Y. March is going to be strong. January was not. Second half of February is going to be a little stronger as Tesla ramps up production. But this is already known information. Based on what Tesla stock has done, falling 30, it was down like 34% from all-time highs to the low on February 11th. But even from today, you're still down almost 28%. You've priced this into Tesla stock. Okay. Now, it says here from Dan Ives. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives wrote in a Wednesday report, worrying too much about Musk's Department of Government efficiency is off base. His work shows car buyers are awaiting the launch of a lower-priced mass-market vehicle due out in the coming weeks. His focus is on that, as well as developments in Tesla's self-driving technology. The company expects to launch a self-driving robotaxi service as soon as June. Musk has always been able to balance his countless initiatives better than any other CEO we have seen. added Ives. The innovation and tech machine at Tesla is accelerating into an autonomous and robotics future, despite growing skepticism around Musk's Doge balancing act. He believes Tesla is worth $2 trillion, not including Optimus. Tesla's artificial intelligence trained humanoid robot, it expects to sell in late 2025 or early 2026. Ives rates Tesla at a buy with a $550 price target. And really, before we move on to other news, I want to make it very clear. It's well-known information that Tesla is seeing a slump in sales right now. In order for this to get worse for Tesla stock, in order for this to continue to drive down Tesla, you really need to see a prolonged period of weakness for Tesla. I think a lot of investors understand that the new Model Y coming out is the reason why sales were lower in January and in the first half of February, with some recovery in February. Via the credit card data that is out today, you are actually seeing sales only down about 23% versus 50-60% in January for a lot of Tesla's markets. And given the stock is down 28%, I think you've priced that in. And that is why I am bullish on Tesla at these levels. Also being reported yet again today is Tesla plans to start selling in India in Q3, which is not going to be a huge market at first, but long term could end up being Tesla's biggest market. India kind of reminds me of China in 2018, 2019, where Tesla was really only just starting to launch in the country then, and well, now China is the biggest market for Tesla. And last night, as I was watching the Price is Right, they actually gave away or attempted to give away a Cybertruck. So that is, 1 million plus viewers that inevitably will see this Cybertruck. And I would say that's free advertisement. And we do have more insight into the launch into India in Q3 2025. It does say the U.S. car maker plans to start selling these cars in 3 major cities of Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore around the third quarter of the year. The people said, asking not to be identified, discussing private plans. Which models Tesla brings to India and from where it has factories in the US, China, and Germany depends on how ongoing tariff talks between India and the US pan out, and whether the effective import tax of 110% that currently applies to its cars is lowered, the people said. And I think that's kind of, already hashed out, if you will, with the meeting that Modi and Elon Musk had. There is going to be some kind of dramatic concession for Tesla so Tesla can sell vehicles in India. Just 2 days later, after Elon and India's prime minister had a meeting, Tesla announced they were going to launch in India. That's no coincidence. There is a deal worked out here. Watt EV's CEO Salim Yousafzai on the Tesla Semi says, quote, "We've been keeping this quiet for a while. These trucks perform." Also in the news today, a Tesla showroom in Southeast Mission Street in Salem, Oregon, was targeted and shot up yesterday. This is the second criminal incident at the location in a month. On January 20th, there was an arson attack and the store was smashed up. The Salem police, with FBI assistance, are investigating both incidents. As Joe Tetmeyer is reporting on X, Giga Texas has major construction projects underway now that is building 3 new structures and 2 huge H2O tanks as part of the campus central support facilities. He goes on to say that some of this additional capacity could be for the Cortex data center in the south end of the main factory. But to be clear, the documents he has does not shed additional light to this potential. So this will be something he continues to watch as construction continues. Humanoid robot startup Figure announced Helix today, their in-house AI that reasons like a human. Quote, our robots equipped with Helix can now pick up virtually any household object without any code or prior training. Helix uses a single set of neural network weights to learn all behaviors. We're introducing Helix, a generalist vision language action, a VLA model that unifies perception, language understanding, and learning to control and overcome multiple long-standing challenges in robotics. You know, this is cool to see, and honestly, you want to see other companies as well making progress in humanoid robotics, but you know, it's much the same as EV companies, if you will. A Rivian, they're just unable to make their vehicles profitably. And that's the ultimate issue with Rivian and Canoo and Fisker and all of these other EV companies. It's manufacturing at mass scale that is the difficult part. Building prototypes, building the robots that can do these tasks, not exactly super difficult to do. Get the right team together, get some money together. You can usually make this work, but to make a business out of it is a lot more difficult. And while there will be some other winners alongside Tesla's Optimus Bot, Tesla has the best chances of mass market production of humanoid robots. And I do think that's going to be a big story for Tesla, especially in the second half of this year, as markets start to focus more on actually applying AI. It's one thing to enable AI to create GPUs and to sell them and be basically the pickaxe and shovels of AI. It's a totally other thing to actually apply that to the mass market in a big way. And Tesla is by far the biggest, if you will, pure play on AI. And I know Tesla has other business, components to their business, cars and stationary batteries, but it's going to become more and more obvious that Tesla is the best AI stock that you can really own on our markets. That's my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. That's one reason why I am very bullish on Tesla this year. I think it is the year of AI appliers, not the AI enablers that have dominated our markets over the past 2 years. As you can see again today, there's almost 500,000 shares that are being covered on Tesla stock. Again, this follows about 1.5 million shares that were covered yesterday. So as Tesla stock has fallen so much from all-time highs, and we're seeing these doom and gloom headlines that Tesla's, deliveries are slowing down dramatically, what you're actually seeing from big money, again, I will reiterate, big money is no smarter than you or me. I think we are smarter than them. I think we have a better touch of what's going on with Tesla, but what they have is more information than us. They have better data than us. They know people that know things, okay? And bet your ass they have dinners and they, trade around that information. Call it insider trading, call it whatever you want. They do that, and that happens. And it's something worth taking notice of. And, I've made a lot of money in my career doing that, following the money, seeing what the money is doing. Not always are they correct, but a whole hell of a lot more instances than not, they're correct. Timing's, different story, whether, you start seeing short sellers covering, a couple days before a major event, couple weeks or months, that can obviously vary. But you are seeing short sellers covering on short positions. And long story short, that means you're probably in for higher levels for Tesla going ahead. Tesla's chances of falling, I think, are a lot lower than people think. And I mean like a dramatic fall. There's people that think Tesla's going back to $200 or going sub $200. If that were the case, you would probably see short sellers adding to their short positions right now. In fact, not rushing to cover on short positions. Call me crazy, but that sounds logical to me. So you got about 500,000 shares being covered today. Lowest short interest in Tesla's history at 2.14%. $21.5 billion sold short in Tesla, totaling 59.79 million shares. But this is going to fall, as you have seen the last couple of days. About 2 million shares alone have been covered on. And that's the number that we can actually see. I'm sure the number could be even higher than that in all reality. Now, option activity today, not as positive as we have seen over the past couple of days. Yesterday, you had a positive order value of 85%, totaling $723 million. Okay, yesterday was a big day, very positive. Today, not as big of a day. You have 118 different trades totaling $62.61 million with a positive order value of 60%. If you take a look at volume, volume's pretty good today as well. 57% calls, 43% puts. If you look at next week, roughly similar numbers, 57% call volume, 43% put volume. As far as Google Trends data for Tesla, really not seeing much. Kind of trends just trending sideways, not really changing all too much, which is kind of expected during this time of the year. If we look at the United States, you can see search trend activity actually jumped recently for the Cybertruck and overall has been trending a little bit higher for the Model 3 as well as the Model Y. And I really expect you're going to see more search trend activity here in the next couple of weeks when the Model Y truly starts to launch. We've gotten reports in the last couple of days that Model Y wait times are getting extended. That's only happening for two reasons. Either there's a lot of orders and a lot of demand coming in, or the production process is slower than expected. And I think there's probably more orders than Tesla was initially planning for, thus they pushed out wait times. Considering we've already seen Model Ys coming out of Giga Texas, we have not heard of, issues with production. And to me, that just doesn't sound likely at this point. Tesla continues to run about 4,000 different ads with Google. And if we take a look at global inventory numbers, Model Y has recently fallen a bit, down to about 7,400, Model 3 at 3,600, Model X at 1,800, Model S at 1,300, and the Cybertruck at 900. Here on the day today, CNN's Fear and Greed Index is down to 44. You are officially back in fear territory. Yesterday, you were neutral at 48. Market momentum is fear, stock price strength, extreme fear, stock price breadth is fear, put and call options, extreme greed. Market volatility is neutral, safe haven demand in extreme fear, and junk bond demand currently in greed. The percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average down quite a bit today, to 48.5%, down 3.63%, or down 7% today. So if you are, one of the individuals that thinks markets are just too optimistic and, due for a pullback, and you might be right, markets may be due for a pullback, but you're not that strong at all. Like this is pretty normal. Actually, I would say below average in bull markets to have, only 48.5% of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average. And now the AI investor sentiment survey, this thing hit a multi-year bearish high last week. It's down a little bit today, but it's really neutral investors that rose. So bearish investors dropped from 47.3% down to 40.5%. So that's quite a drop, but still really negative when all things are said and done. Neutral investors rose from 24.3% to 30.3%. Big rise for neutral investors, but bullish investors really didn't budge too much, from 28.4% rising to 29.2%. So rising less than 1%. Neutral fell about 7%. Bearish investors fell about 7%, and neutral investors rose almost 7%. So, you're still in a pretty damn bearish kind of emotional position in markets. In the news today, the French president says Donald Trump is creating uncertainty because he wants to get deals done. He also says that he knows Donald Trump, he is someone he respects and who respects him. The Trump administration opens a review into whether to rescind $4 billion in grants awarded to California's high-speed rail project. Fed Goolsbee says if there are big deportations, it does have direct implications for the number of jobs created. Fed Bostic expects inflation to continue bumpy decline to 2% without major rebound. Businesses optimistic on deregulation but concerned about tariffs. Immigration challenges. He sees 2 rate cuts in 2025 but remains uncertain. Labor market is stable but showing signs of easing. Fed monetary policy in a good place but must avoid complacency. watching impact of Trump's executive order on financial regulation, and economy remains resilient with 2025 expected to be a solid year. And really, I mean, Fed officials right now are just nauseously neutral. They really don't want to take a stance right now, too bullish, too bearish, too dovish, too, hawkish. They're really just walking down the middle right now to see what happens. And some of these Fed officials sound like aggressive, like aggressively neutral is maybe a good way to put it. Really saying like, hey, we could be cutting rates. We may not cut rates at all. Inflation could come back again, or this could be just a bump in the road. There's really a lot of, you could also say mixed signals coming out of the Fed right now, and markets just really have no idea what to go off of. And I think this does create an environment where data is going to be really important when it comes out. IRS executive tells staff on call that about 6,000 workers to be fired on Thursday. Fed Musaliam says inflation expectations have moved higher, would make Fed's job more difficult if sustained. And what he's referencing is the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, in which 2 weeks ago came in high for 1 year inflation expectations. That's what he's referencing. But it was Democrats, okay? Democrats expect 5.5% inflation. Independents expect 3.2% inflation over the next year. And Republicans expect almost no inflation, 0.1% over the next year. So the numbers are very skewed, and that's why you've seen a jump in inflation expectations. A lot of that has to do with the tariff headlines and mainstream media pushing the narrative that prices will be going higher if tariffs are implemented, okay? As tariffs have kind of been on pause with Canada and Mexico especially, you should see inflation expectations come down in the final numbers that we get tomorrow, which could be good news for markets, but we will have to wait and see. Trump is calling for a balanced budget now, saying that they really need to get America's fiscal situation in check. Mexican president says the designation of Mexican cartels as a terrorist group was a U.S. decision and Mexico was not consulted. And Macron, France's president essentially, quote, will tell Trump he can't be weak in face of Putin, which I'm sure was never the plan. Now, we did get some economic data today. Initial jobless claims came in a little bit higher than expected, but not really a cause for concern. Coming in at 219,000. We were expecting 215,000. That is up from 214,000 last week. Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index comes in at 18.1. Estimates were 20 versus last month at 44.3. So manufacturing index did weaken quite a bit. Business conditions came down to 27.8, a big fall from last month. CapEx came down to 14, a big fall from last month. Employment came down to 5.3, a big fall from last month. Philly Fed new orders, again, a big fall from last month, coming in at 21.9. But look at that. Philly Fed prices paid came in at 40.50 versus last month at 31.90. This could be part of why markets are moving lower today. It's some of those inflation concerns. Now, the CB leading index came in at negative 0.3% month over month versus estimates of around 0 or, negative 0.1%. So weaker economic data there. Generally weaker economic data out of the Philly Fed, manufacturing index today. But that prices paid component that did move higher is not something that the markets like to see. Now, today and after hours at 6:30 p.m., you will get the inflation rate out of Japan. And then on Friday, tomorrow, really the big data is your global composite PMI, manufacturing PMI, and services PMI, with a big highlight here on services because services have started to weaken a little bit recently, especially last month. You did see services come down quite a bit. And it's just giving me a weird chart here. It doesn't want to actually pull up the exact number, but essentially you went from 57 down to 53 after services that have really been rising ever since May of 2024. If services fall again, that's something the Fed will really want to pay attention to. That could put a backstop on some of the more hawkish comments we have gotten from the Fed. It would be something they would really have to take notice of. We also get existing home sales for January, existing home sales month over month, and the final numbers for Michigan consumer sentiment. We're going to get 5-year inflation expectations, consumer expectations, current conditions, and inflation expectations for the 1-year period. And I think the 1-year period ahead is the most important part because, again, that's where you've seen the skyrocketing last month of those inflation expectations, and it was really just political. So we'll see if these come back down. I mean, in November of 2024, you were at 2.6%. December, you were at 2.8%. So even after Trump was, we knew Trump was going to be the president, you really didn't see too much of a move higher in inflation expectations. But it's been in the last 2 months that it's gotten a little bit crazy here, and markets do pay attention. So if you move higher on this tomorrow, that's bad. If you move lower, that could be really good. So let me know what you think about this information down below in the comments section. Again, for Tesla specifically, you want to get above that 362 level. That's kind of our resistance. It looks like at this point. If you come down, you're going to want to hold support at this 100-day moving average around $341 per share. And until we break out to the upside or break down to the downside and below this moving average, you're kind of just in this range. And we've kind of been there now for the last couple of days. I do believe we could break out to the upside, but keep in mind right now, the second half of February is seasonally the worst period for markets, or the worst 2-week period for markets in any point of any year, going back to 1928. So, if we're going to get some weakness, it should logically be in this, next 2 weeks, because March tends to be a pretty good month and April is a really good month. So after February, we could be looking good over the next couple of months. So let me know what you guys think about this, again, down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for supporting this channel, this journey with Tesla. Super thanks. Those of you guys that are in the trading community, link down below in the description of this video for that one. Those of you guys that just spread positivity, that does a whole lot for this community, especially when there's a lot of false information out there. There's a lot of emotions, and people not always, use rational common sense. So those of you guys that provide a valid argument, appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.